This is a Gear Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on Gear Network. Listen in.
Welcome back, I should say. Episode 58 of the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
5-8.
I'm Ryan Wolf, joined by Mr. Luis Perez on the FanDuel hotline. Unfortunately, as you may know by now, as you should know by now, it's been over a year. It's not a Better Live Than Dead podcast without some technical difficulties. My computer wouldn't cooperate today. Couldn't get Skype to work. I come on to Uber conference, our plan B, when we can't meet up in person, and that wouldn't work either. So I had Luis on hold for roughly 9 minutes singing Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. And I know he was singing it because every time I jumped back in to see if my microphone worked, I would catch Luis singing. So we're here, we're back, we're ready to talk some sports, specifically today, football. But first, I haven't talked to Luis, I haven't talked to you, and I mean on and off in texting, but haven't actually talked to you in a little while. So how you been?
Not bad, man. Busy, crazy. How about you, bro?
Been busy. That's how the month of August was expected to be, and that's how it turned out to be. Just very busy stuff. In the process of getting a new job, hopefully here in the next couple weeks. I finally went to the dentist. That didn't turn out too well. I have to get a bunch of teeth pulled and have a bunch of cavities, but hey, I didn't go to the dentist for 6 years, so what was I expecting? Anything less than that would have been good, I guess, but on the road to recovery.
I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Brush your teeth two times a day, man.
Oh, I do. I brush, I floss. It's just I wasn't taking good enough care of my teeth. I have to get my wisdom teeth pulled, and then the tooth next to my wisdom tooth has to come out. But everything else is solid. I mean, my gums look good. My teeth look good. They're clean. There's not a lot of plaque on them. The dentist was very pleased with my dental health, aside from the cavities and the teeth that have to be pulled. But
right.
Now that I'm actually...
Wisdom teeth tend to get pulled a lot, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, because they're useless. I mean, the one I have came through fully, but it's angled weird, so it's not going to help me at all. And then the other one that I have, because I only have top ones. The bottom ones never came in. The other side,
really?
It came in like a quarter of the way, and then they showed me in the X-ray. They said that's as far as it's going to come in. It stopped growing. So I guess... Yeah, I guess at this point, it's in my best interest just to get them pulled. And then the other tooth, apparently have had a cavity in it for a while, and they said we can put a crown on it for $900, or we can pull it for $200 or $150. And I said, just pull it. I mean, if I don't need it, and the guy, the dentist said, honestly, if you're looking to save money, just get it pulled because you don't really need that tooth. So I'm just going to listen to what he says. Yeah, I'm going to listen to what he says. If it can save me $900, I'm going to save, or $700, I'm going to save $700.
Where do you go for your dentistry?
I go to a place called All Smiles in Albion because they take a thing called Care Credit, which I had to get to go to the dentist because I got insurance through Obamacare, and I just got the cheapest insurance, just the insurance, $10 a month for 12 months, so I don't get charged a penalty at the end of the year. But I have like limited health care. I don't even have dental. I have no eye care, no dental care, just limited health care. So, I don't really care to get care. It doesn't bother me to get care credit. I mean, I'd rather take care of myself and have something set up just in case something does happen. Or in this case, I have one tooth that needs to come out and two others that aren't really supposed to be in my head, and the cavities as well. And also apparently I've been grinding my teeth real bad in my sleep. So I that's a good thing. I did end up going, so I can keep an eye on that one. But, it's just, you got to take care of yourself.
I agree.
I mean, as you get older, you don't think it's that important, but as you get older, it's actually more important to take care of yourself because you're not invincible like you were when you were a child.
Right.
Can't bounce your head off. No, I'm not even 24 yet. And I've already realized very quickly that you need to take care of yourself. And if you don't, you're going to regret it 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Right.
When your teeth are all rotten out of your head, or you've got health problems because you didn't go see a doctor when you should have, you got to do what's good for yourself.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised how many people don't like going to the doctors.
Oh, I absolutely hate it.
I get it.
The last time I went to the doctor, I had a cold, and the doctor was like insistent on grabbing my balls. Like I needed like a Z-Pack or something because I had like an upper respiratory infection, and they were like, "Can I see your testicles?" And I was like, "I'm sick. I have a cold. I need medicine." And they're like, "Yeah, but we want to touch your genitals." And I was like, I'm probably not coming back here ever again."
I've never had a doctor quite ask me like that. Like, we just want to touch.
Yeah, they're like, we want to check you out and make sure you're okay. And I was like, I'm pretty fine aside from this upper respiratory infection that I currently have.
So, doctor walks into my room, and they're like, "Hey, listen, we need to check your genitals." I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead, whatever." Here you go.
You've already told me all those stories, Lewis. Though we don't have to go over those stories again. I remember the one day that was one of those days where we had 4 hours to record a podcast because we talked more off the air than we did on the air.
Right.
But today, with it being, it's Thursday, September 3rd, just so you all know when we're speaking, just for record-keeping purposes, about an hour ago, the National Football League was dealt a very severe blow by Judge Berman. He overturned Tom Brady's 4-game suspension. And now I have a lawyer friend on Twitter who's really good at what he does. And I was asking him some questions about what was happening. But apparently what the decision says is obviously they right now the NFL was trying to suspend Tom Brady solely on the fact that he refused to cooperate with Ted Wells in the Wells report. Which is fair. I mean, I understand. Like, Tom Brady was reportedly ready to accept a 1-game suspension as long as they said that he wouldn't be guilty for Deflategate, but he was guilty of not cooperating. He said he was fine with that, or reportedly said he was fine with that. But the NFL stuck to their guns and said, "We'll go to 3 games if you say you did it, and we'll move on." And he said, "I'm not going to accept any guilt," reportedly. So that never happened. But today, the ruling, my lawyer friend at They Call Me Dubs on Twitter, he told me essentially, it says here, Wells didn't provide any notice that he was able to take adverse inference from withholding destruction of evidence. Essentially, that means, for people who don't know lawyer terms, and I had to look it up and had to ask him some more questions. So essentially, Ted Wells never told Tom Brady he could be suspended for withholding evidence or destroying evidence. And then when he withheld and destroyed evidence, they were like, "We're going to suspend you because of that," which you can't do that. You cannot do that at all. Right. And that's the same thing that happened with Bountygate, where they withheld information and didn't tell him everything. And then Ted Wells found out that it was like a really bad problem. Am I still recording? Because apparently my computer I'm not showing up here.
I hear you.
I know you hear me. Okay. I'm back. The microphone's back. This computer, man, I don't know. Technology's a fickle bitch.
Yes, it is.
My computer just started to load and my microphone stopped showing up. But the same thing happened. The same thing happened with Bountygate, where they withheld information, then they suspended Sean Payton based on the withholding of information. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. I mean, we're nowhere near being done, because the NFL will appeal. I mean, Tom Brady's going to play. Tom Brady will play week 1. He'll play a week from tonight in New England against the Steelers. But it's going to be very interesting to see where the NFL goes from here. Do the owners try to take some sort of issue with Roger Goodell? Because again, Goodell is representing their best interests, and the way that this has turned out is not in the best interest of the owners, because essentially, at this point, there was some sort of evidence to prove that there was some wrongdoing. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the NFL said it was, but there was something going on. And it essentially became like a witch hunt, where they tried to find other reasons to suspend Tom Brady, to say, look, if you're going to try to bend the rules, we're going to kick you out of the game for a little while. And it didn't work. So the Ray Rice situation was kind of a black eye for Goodell in the NFL, because, and no pun intended there, but it was kind of bad for the league and the owners, because it showed that they were trying to suspend on kind of a slippery slope. And I think that today's ruling shows that the NFL has some figuring out to do when it comes to suspending players. And I would assume the next CBA, and I know it's not for a while, but the next CBA probably will take ultimate power away from Roger Goodell and give ultimate power to an independent an independent party, because again, every time now that a player gets suspended, and Goodell is the guy that hears the I can't think of the word, the appeal. When Goodell hears the appeal, and if he holds up say a guy gets suspended 4 games for steroids, but I guess that's probably a bad example because that's kind of cut and dry. Say a guy gets suspended.
Yeah, but not only that, would never say one of the things the judge said today was that they could not use the steroid policy. Yeah,
they called it. They said it was steroid. Comparing it to steroid use was ridiculous. That's what the lawyer had said today. Was just that no, you can't do that. You can't say that a guy getting a DUI is like a guy beating his wife, like a guy using steroids. You can't do stuff like that. Right. It is what it is, and you have to police it accordingly. So,
right.
I think the next time you see a guy get suspended, it may end up going to the courts because there's a hole. There's a dent in the armor now, and people know where to go and know how far they can push it and what buttons they have to push to get what they want. So you may see some things change. I'm not sure if it'll change now or if it'll change in the future, but clearly we're seeing some changing of the guard in the NFL, especially with how much power that Roger Goodell holds, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. I mean, what's to stop the Patriots from now suing them with this ruling to try to get their picks back? You know what I'm saying?
I think that's the next thing is because Goodell flat out, and people were talking to me about that on Twitter because I'm very on the fence about this. I understand Brady did something wrong, but to blow it up as big as you have, it's kind of the NFL puffing their chest out, trying to say, "Look, we are, a dick swinging contest, essentially." That's all it's been. As the NFL said, we're more powerful than you, and we're going to show it. You tried to show us up, so we're going to show you up. And the thing about it is, people say, why didn't Robert Kraft go after the picks and go after the money if he knew Tom Brady was innocent and the league or the team was innocent? Well, here's the problem with that: when Roger Goodell dropped that part of the ruling on the Patriots, he said flat out, you cannot appeal this. We're taking your picks. We're taking $1 million. You can't appeal that. You can appeal the suspension, but you can't appeal the picks. You can't appeal the money. Now, maybe they go to court. Maybe they go to court with that and say, look, we've been vindicated in court. Like we got what we wanted. We're not guilty. Our guy's back playing football. How can we get our picks and money back? Although you said we can't, maybe they can take him to court and say, well, look, you ruled improperly. You tried to rule with an iron fist or whatever. We want our stuff back. And then there's, I know it's down the road and we've already passed that one, but there was ESPN, legal analysts on ESPN speculating, do the Saints now come back on the NFL saying, look, you suspended us improperly. Yes, there were wrongdoing. There were signs of wrongdoing, but you came down on us like you came down on Tom Brady, and a judge ruled that was improper, and you can't do that. So it's interesting to see where we go from here for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because there's a lot of, like you said, the Saints, there's been a whole bunch of cases where now they can go back and say, listen, you judged us unfairly, and so this is what we want back. It's going to be, I wonder if this is going to be the death, toll of Roger Goodell as commissioner.
It's certainly the start of a lot more questions being, because we saw the questions get asked when Roger Goodell mishandled the Ray Rice case. And again, we know Ray Rice did something wrong, but to the effect of how they tried to suspend him and same with Adrian Peterson, where Roger Goodell just goes, we don't know what to do, so we're just going to suspend you indefinitely and you can't play football anymore and go away. Like you can't, that's how he's ruled. And again, if there was a set like, hey, you know what? Let's see, this guy, beat his wife and we have, evidence, and that's a 6-game suspension because there's precedent. We've set precedent, automatic 6-game suspension or 4-game suspension or 2-game suspension. Not, we don't know what to do, so we're going to suspend you for an entire year, and then whatever happens. Like, you can't do that. And that's kind of what happened in this situation. Again, it's apples to oranges. I know I'm kind of connecting the wrong dots here, but
Yeah,
Roger Goodell here with the 4-game suspension was like, look, we don't have evidence of you doing this, but we're going to suspend you based on the fact that you deflated footballs, but there's no evidence. So then the suspension turned from we're suspending Brady for deflating footballs and the evidence we have to he didn't cooperate with Ted Wells to, well, he didn't know he wasn't supposed to cooperate, but he still didn't. So now maybe we can get you to admit some fault here, but you didn't really do anything wrong. We think we don't know, so we're still going to try to suspend you. It doesn't make any sense to me. This whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I'm just confused.
Yeah, well, I believe that Roger Goodell was confused also, which is why he's made choices that he's made. But, he's got his right-hand man, the lawyer, who obviously wasn't giving him great advice because it's all blown up in their face at this point.
It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the National Football League coming up here in the next days, weeks, months, years. As someone pointed out on Twitter, let's see here, let me get the name. Don Banks, at Don Banks, he works for the NFL for Sports Illustrated. It's the NFL's legal record is not good. You remember the Star Caps case back in Minnesota where they tried to suspend players and it didn't end up happening. Bountygate, Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, Adrian Peterson, Deflategate, everything all undone in court. Again, there's wrongdoing, but you try to overstep your limits and you don't try to set a precedent. You just try to destroy people. And it doesn't, people, and the thing about it too is people are relating this to Spygate. We know something happened there. That's dead and that's over. That if you want to talk about legacy with that, fine. But with Deflategate, there is nothing here.
Right.
Like there's just, at this point, I'm over. I'm ready to move on. Just ready for hockey at this point.
I hear you.
But luckily for us today on the Better Live Than Dead podcast, we are going to be talking about football the whole time. And you know what? We may just do a straight through podcast. I was talking to Lewis about this before we got on the air. Football starts a week from tonight. It's like I said, September 3rd today. Football starts next Thursday as the Patriots host the Pittsburgh Steelers to kick off the season. But as we have done, well, we did once because we've only been around for a year now. We are going to have some predictions. So it's like our annual prediction podcast, I guess. It sucks that we can't have John here, but with my weird work schedule and just everyone being adults, it's very hard to get everybody together and make things happen. So I assume you'll probably hear predictions from John on Get Ready America. So please definitely tune in for that. But today, myself and Lewis, or me and Lewis, I should say, we're going to predict the NFL, and we're going to see what happens. So without further ado, I just want to jump into the NFC West. I certainly think, until further notice at least, the Seattle Seahawks are going to win that division. I think it'll be Seattle, Arizona, St. Louis, and San Francisco. I think Arizona will be not as good as last year, but still, probably 11, 12 wins. I think Seattle probably wins 13 games and takes that division, like I said, no problem. St. Louis, I would probably have to assume with Nick Foles at quarterback, and they've added Todd Gurley. I mean, obviously Gurley's going to be limited early, but if he's good as the season goes on, they could probably win 8 or 9 games. And I don't think, and with San Francisco, I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. They might be a 6 or 7 win team.
Yes. Yeah, San Francisco's going to be horrid this year. It is not going to be a good year for San Fran. They've lost so many players. I
mean, they still have a lot of offensive talent. Kaepernick,
they do.
Vernon Davis, they have Anquan Bolden, they have Carlos Hyde. But defensively, I mean, their offensive line is also garbage, but their defense is just a shell of itself. And
yeah, they're not going to be able to stop anybody.
In that tough NFC West, good luck. Seriously, good luck.
I agree. You have it, Seattle, Arizona, St. Louis, San Fran. I actually see it in the exact same way.
I also just a heads up to keep people aligned here. I have Arizona winning the wild card.
That's really
yes.
okay.
Moving over to the NFC South now. I don't expect this division to be very good again. Why is my microphone not picking up? It still says you're talking. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Okay, there we go. It was just picking up dead air from you, and it was saying you were talking. Maybe that's what happened before. I don't know. In the NFC South, I have the New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm thinking New Orleans maybe gets to 10 wins, maybe. Atlanta probably in their first year with a new head coach. I was expecting them to maybe win 8 games, maybe 9 games. Carolina, they have no one to throw the ball to besides Greg Olsen and maybe Devin Funchess. I know they picked up Kevin Norwood from Seattle too, but a bunch of no-name talent around Cam Newton for another year. I'm expecting them to win maybe 6 games, 5-6 games. And then Tampa Bay, they're just a tire fire. I don't have really any prediction for them aside from the fact that they're going to be horrible.
It'll be interesting to see how Jameis Winston matures this year as an actual NFL player. I mean, we all know how good he was as a college player, but now that he's gone to the next level, will he be able to maintain the level that he had while in college? I believe Tampa Bay will probably also end up at the bottom of that division. But the jury's still out on the Saints for me. I said last year that the Saints really depend upon the play of Drew Brees. If he's the Drew Brees that's throwing a whole lot of touchdowns, they're really tough. If he's the Drew Brees that's throwing up a whole lot of interceptions, they're not going to be anywhere near as good. And last year, he was the Drew Brees that threw a lot of interceptions.
Well, remember last year too, they put a lot of pressure on Drew Brees to be the guy because that team was not very good last year.
No, that's true. And he did as good as he could with the players that he had. And yeah, Carolina, they're another team that's going to be interesting to see what happens. I believe they're probably going to run the ball quite a bit this year. You all right over there?
Yeah, Sports Center tweeted out a funny Vine of here's what the internet looked like when the Tom Brady news broke, and it's an old Sports Center commercial of I'm assuming like Y2K or something happening because everyone's running around, and then it's Mark McGuire hitting a computer with a baseball bat.
Nice.
So that's pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. I got it. Looking at NFC South with New Orleans first. I got the Panthers second. I think they'll be enough to edge out Atlanta. And then, like I said, Tampa Bay last.
I agree with you on the Jameis Winston thing. I'm very interested to see what happens with Jameis Winston, but I don't think that he's going to be great his first year. It might take him some time.
No, I agree with you.
But in Atlanta, you have to figure Atlanta makes some sort of move back up after being bad for a little while. And like I said, New Orleans, I'm going to keep calling them out until they show me something. I mean, I had them in last year in the Super Bowl, I believe, and they were garbage. So, I'm not expecting them to go very far, but we'll certainly see what they do this year.
Well, we know what Atlanta's not going to do this year. We know they're not going to be pumping music and crowd noise into the stadium.
Yeah. That was
that $350,000 fine again.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Idiots right there. Moving over to NFC North now. I have Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago. I've Green Bay again, stellar, probably 12-4, 13-3. Detroit, I'm thinking maybe 11 or 12 wins. Minnesota, probably 9 or 10. And then Chicago, they're just not. I'm thinking maybe 5-6 games. 7 games maybe.
Right. I agree. I'm going to go exactly the same way. I have it lined up exactly the same way that you do.
I have Detroit as the other wild card, and I'll explain in a second when we get over to the East. But I've got a feeling like Detroit is. I mean, I have them as a 6th seed in the playoffs. I can't speak over it here, but I certainly think they're a force to be reckoned with. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they get any better, if they develop any more. But they've added a few nice pieces this offseason and in the draft, so maybe they can develop a little more and challenge Green Bay for the North. But right now, I still think that they are the team. Green Bay's the team to beat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I believe they are also.
Moving over to the NFC East now, I have the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, and Washington. Now, Dallas, again, like Green Bay, like Seattle, until proven otherwise, they're the team to beat in this division. There's no doubt about it. They were a catch away. I mean, they had the catch, but they were a NFL rule change away from the championship game.
Yes, they were.
So they are a good football team. They're as good as advertising. They're bringing everybody back this season. So I would say, Dallas probably 13, 14 wins. I don't know if that's pushing it too far, but they're going to win the division in my eyes. I've got Philadelphia being a decent team, but probably only winning 9 or 10 games. The Giants, I'm sticking with mediocrity, maybe 8-8, 9-7, and then Washington, 3-4 wins, maybe. I mean,
if that, we may have a team go 0-15.
You mean 0-16?
Yeah, I say 15. My bad, 0-16.
I mean, maybe by then they just forfeit and say, you know what, we're just not going to show up anymore.
Right, exactly. I mean, that offense is in disarray. The Washington Redskins owner's wife just got in trouble for mean tweeting the ESPN reporter that broke the story about Cousins being named the starter. That entire franchise is just in trouble. I have it Dallas, then I have it New York, and then Philly, and then Washington.
I'm not underselling the fact that maybe the Giants are better, but I'm just buying whatever Chip Kelly's selling. I'm buying it.
Yeah, I understand, but I think that the Giants, with their receiving core healthy, will be a force to be reckoned with in that division. That's why I have them finishing above Philadelphia.
I'm just not sure that I'm not sure that the Giants' defense is good enough right now.
The defense isn't glaring, yeah, I understand. But I don't believe that the quarterback situation in Philly helps them any.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, Sam Bradford hasn't been bad in training camp or in preseason, but that's preseason, and
right.
When you're playing 4 quarters, getting hit 4 quarters every week, and we'll see how he holds up. I mean, they're certainly going to work with a science project under center, but if it works out for them, he may be the long-term solution in Philadelphia. And Chip Kelly's doing something fun. It may be good, it may be bad, but no matter what, it is fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see how it's going to work out. But I just think that JPP being out for the Giants is a big enough loss to bump them down to 3rd in the division. When it comes to the lineup for the playoffs, I have Dallas 1, Seattle 2, Green Bay 3, New Orleans 4, Arizona 5, Detroit 6. I have Green Bay over Detroit and Arizona over New Orleans. And then in the conference, or in the next round, I don't remember what the next round is. I've gone blank. I have Dallas over Arizona, Seattle over Green Bay. In the NFC Championship game, Seattle over Dallas. And then on the NFC side, I have Seattle in the Super Bowl because, again, I've learned a lot when it comes to sports, when it comes to the hashtag Sprots. until you prove me wrong, you pick the best team, and at this point in time, Seattle's the best team. And I have no in the NFC. I have no doubts that Seattle is the best team in the NFC. And until someone steps up and hits him in the mouth and says, "No, we're taking I'm the captain now. We're taking this ship over," I have no reason to go against Seattle.
Well, I have in the championship game, I have Dallas, Seattle also. But I believe Dallas is going to beat Seattle.
And I know that's not a homer pick. I mean, I know you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, but the Cowboys if they come out as good as or better than they were last year, that could be very plausible. We could be seeing the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl 50. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah,
moving.
Oh,
you can finish what you're saying.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Moving over to the AFC now, starting in the AFC West. I have Denver, Kansas City, San Diego, and Oakland. And I know I'm probably, if you were to like map out my picks and give every team the amount of wins that I'm predicting, it wouldn't add up math wise, but that's why we're podcasters. We can make up whatever we want to, as long as we think it makes sense and we can explain it well enough.
Right.
In the AFC West, I have Denver winning maybe 12 or 13 games. It all really depends if they have a good running game, because as we've seen, Peyton Manning needs to be rested throughout the season. He can't be throwing 35, 40 times a game. He's got to be throwing maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 times a game. I know that may not be plausible for a guy like Peyton Manning, but the more he throws earlier on, the quicker he burns out later in the year, and then he's throwing ducks in the playoffs, and then, Denver's out quick. Kansas City, I think they'll probably be 11 or 12 game winner. I know they added Jeremy Maclin on the offensive side of things. So that probably will help out Alex Smith a little more. But I'm really buying Andy Reid in Kansas City. I just like what he's doing there. I think Kansas City continues on. San Diego, I'm thinking maybe 9 or 10 wins. I know last year they were really good, but just the way it works out. I mean, Denver or the West may be like the what was it last year? Like the East was, or last year, or something like that. I can't remember. No, it wasn't the East. Whatever division last year that had like 3 10-plus game winners, and it just didn't work out for one of the teams. I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was the wild. It was the wild card. It was the wild card that it was. That there was like 3 or 4 10-game winners, and a couple teams got left out that were good that should be in the playoffs because everyone was mad about the South. I remember that now. I think
that big discussion about the playoffs and how it should actually be done.
Record-wise, yeah, you don't guarantee the winner of a division a playoff spot like the NBA is doing.
Right, because Darlings got in last year, people were pissed off because they had a worse record.
Yeah, New Orleans gets in at like 7-9, but Philadelphia misses out and they won 10 or 11 games. So that makes sense.
Because that entire division had a sub 500 record yet. Got in.
Oh no! You know what it was? It was the NFC. It was the AFC North. They were really good too because they played the AFC or the NFC South. So the North was collecting wins like it was their job, and the South was garbage. The West, I think the West might be like the North. I don't know who the West plays this year. I probably should look into that a little more before I did these predictions. But Denver's good, Kansas City's good, San Diego's good. So that's going to be a nice little race to watch throughout the year. I don't think Oakland is. They'll probably improve a little because, I mean, the Carr under center, he's getting better. They have Amari Cooper at wide receiver. They have Latavius Murray at running back, I believe. So I think that they could win a couple more games, but I don't think that they're necessarily ready to make the jump and compete with the Denver, Kansas City, San Diego's in that division. So that one seems pretty cut and dry for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe Oakland has made steps in the right direction to improve, but I don't think they're quite there yet. As far as 1 and 2, to me, between Denver and Kansas City, I believe it could go either way. It's really going to play. It's really going to play out to see just how Peyton is. He came out the other day and said that he had no feelings in his fingertips. And so that could really hurt him.
But, I mean, his regular season last year was excellent. Then the weather got cold, and we all saw what happened. So, to me, I think it could go either way between Denver and Kansas City. I think I'm going to go Kansas City, Denver, San Diego, Oakland. And I believe Kansas City is going to maybe take it by, like, a game.
I have obviously Denver winning, but I have Kansas City getting the wild card.
I think Denver will end up being the wild card.
But either way, we both have them in the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay. Moving over to the AFC South, I have, not a shocker, I have the Indianapolis Colts winning the division. Houston, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. I don't have Houston in the playoffs, but I still think they win 9, maybe 10 games. But with how good Kansas City is going to be, and a team I'm going to speak of later in the podcast, I don't think Houston will be able to make the playoffs without winning 11 games, 12 games, and pushing Indianapolis for that division crown, which, again, I don't think is going to happen because I think Indianapolis easily wins 12 or 13 games this year.
Yeah, Indianapolis is going to be good. Andrew Luck has improved, season after season, and I think he's going to be, even better than last season. So I can get on board with that. The Colts, the Texans, the Jags, and then the Tennessee Titans.
I think Tennessee finishes above Jacksonville solely based on Marcus Mariota. Now I'm high on the guy. I certainly like what he's done and what he brings to the table. I don't think Tennessee or Jacksonville is necessarily anywhere near making the playoffs or even contending. But
right.
Another gear for Jacksonville. I mean, I could see maybe 5 or 6 wins for each of these teams, and it could easily be flip-flopped.
Right.
I think Blake Bortles shows more effectiveness this season, which will solidify his role as the franchise quarterback for them coming up. But with not having Julius Thomas due to a finger injury, which I almost drafted him in fantasy football, glad I didn't at this point. I mean, looking back at it, I don't have really any good tight ends, but I guess I'm glad I dodged that bullet. But anyways, back to real football here. I think that'll affect him, but I think Blake Bortles is maybe not the real deal, but he's pretty damn close. I think he'll certainly prove his worth this season in Jacksonville, and in Tennessee, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Marcus Mariota develop and watch that offense develop around him with some of the weapons that he has. So it's going to be interesting to see those two teams. It's kind of like projects this season, but again, it's Indianapolis, then it's Houston, and then it's Tennessee or Jacksonville, whatever you may want there. Moving over to the AFC North now, I have Cincinnati winning the division, Baltimore second, Pittsburgh third, Cleveland fourth. I think Cincinnati will, they'll continue their regular season dominance. They'll be very good during the regular season with the weapons that they have, with the talent they have on offense and defense. I don't know if what Baltimore will do this year. I think maybe 10, 11 wins, but I'm not sure that'll be enough to get them in the playoffs. Pittsburgh, their defense is still really old. Well, not really old, but they're now. Let me take that. Let me start over. Pittsburgh's defense was really old. Now they're kind of young, but they're still filling out roles and trying to figure out what they're doing on the defensive side of things. I still think it's going to take at least another year or so for them to be relevant in a playoff sense. Their offense without Le'Veon Bell for 2 games, it probably will hurt them. But when Bell comes back, I mean, if Bell has a phenomenal year and Roethlisberger can really go off with the weapons that he has at wide receiver and Heath Miller at tight end, they may be able to sneak into the playoffs. But I just don't think that this year is going to be great for them. And then obviously in third, Josh McCown at quarterback for Cleveland. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know. I expect by week 8 at the latest that Johnny Manziel starting at quarterback. He's shown a lot of improvement, but I don't think Cleveland is ready for the playoffs yet, ready to contend at least.
Johnny Manziel has shown a lot of improvement, surprisingly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I believe that they are going to finish at the bottom of that particular division. As far as 1 through 3, I believe the Baltimore Ravens are going to end up at the top of the division. I believe their defense is going to really propel them to the top of that division. I believe that they got some good weapons. They got their number 1 draft wide receiver, what's his name, Perriman?
Yeah.
He was real good. I believe he's going to fill the role that Torrey Smith vacated. They still got Steve Smith, who last year was very productive, even for an older wide receiver.
And it's his last year, too.
And it's his last year, so he's going to want to make a statement. So I'm going to go Baltimore, Cincy, Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
Okay, that's fair. Now moving over to the AFC East, as we mentioned, Tom Brady's 4-game suspension was dropped. Even before then, I still had New England winning the East just because until Belichick is not there, I just feel like, or until someone challenges them and really overtakes them, I don't necessarily see New England losing the East. I have them as the 1 seed in the AFC. I have them winning maybe 13 games, 12 or 13 games. I have Buffalo finishing second. I think with their defense and Rex Ryan a head coach, their defense can be as effective, if not more effective, if that's even possible, this season. I'm not necessarily sure how Tyrod Taylor is going to play out at quarterback, but I feel with the amount of weapons they have with Sam Watkins, with Robert Woods, with Charles Clay, and with LaShawn McCoy in the backfield, like I said, I think Tyrod Taylor may be able to be productive enough to be a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, but be productive enough to be good enough to get the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, which I have them winning the wild card, and we'll talk about that in a second. I think Miami makes strides towards the playoffs this year, but I'm thinking maybe 8 to 10 games for them. And then the New York Jets, I'm thinking maybe 6 to 8 wins for them. I don't necessarily think they're going to be good with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, who we've seen has been mediocre at best, if not worse than mediocre. But with Chan Gailey as his offensive coordinator, maybe they can rekindle some of the old magic they had in Buffalo, where they were successful for a little while. But I necessarily don't think the New York Jets are going to be a thorn in anyone's side this season for sure.
No, the Jets are going to finish the bottom of that division. I believe that, they just pretty much, with the exception of, I think they're going to have a good defense. I just don't think they're going to be able to score on anybody. I can see them ending up in 4th place. I agree with you. New England's definitely going to win the division. At this point, with Tom Brady's suspension being overturned, and he's going to be starting right off the bat, that definitely gives them an edge because it's Tom Brady. For me, 2 and 3 could be a toss-up. I can see Miami being number 2. They added Ndamukong Suh, and he's going to be a nice compliment to Cameron Wake. Ryan Tannehill had an excellent season last year. Threw over, unless he was playing Madden, he didn't go through one season in one night. But, Ryan Tannehill had over 4,000 yards passing. Jarvis Landry was a great rookie. And so I believe he's going to improve. And they added Devontae Parker. So I think that's going to be a good 1-2 punch. So I think they're making strides in the right direction. So I think that they have the potential to finish in second place. I think the Bills are going to be a lot better this year. I think their defense is going to be awesome. The offense to me is still a question mark simply because of the quarterback situation. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm going to go Patriots, Dolphins, Buffalo, Jets.
I have, just wrapping things up here in the AFC, I have New England 1, Indianapolis 2, Denver 3, Cincinnati 4, Buffalo 5, Kansas City 6. I feel like I said, Kansas City probably wins 11 games, but I think that Buffalo just it's crazy because I have wanted to make this pick for a very long time. And knowing, how good the Bills may or may not be, it's been hard to not make it feel like a homer pick to say the Bills are going to be in the playoffs, but I feel very confident this season that the Bills will be in the playoffs. And it certainly helps that they play Kansas City this season. I mean, in Kansas City, that continues a tradition of always playing Kansas City. But, Buffalo and Kansas City could both win 11 games, but because Buffalo wins against Kansas City, they go to 5. Kansas City's at 6. So, right there, that could be your determining factor between who goes where. But I just feel comfortable Buffalo at 5, Kansas City at 6. I think that obviously the first wild card game would be Denver, Kansas City. I think Denver wins that game. And then Cincinnati, Buffalo, I would pick Buffalo to win because Cincinnati has not won in the playoffs. I think they're like 0-6 in their last 6 playoff games. Andy Dalton turns into a pumpkin whenever it's playoff football. And I don't see why that would change at all this year.
Yeah, I don't really see it changing either.
And the interesting thing too is that Buffalo plays the Bengals this season, so that would be a rematch of a regular season matchup. So I would have, obviously, with Buffalo being the lower seed, they would play New England. Denver would be hosted by Indianapolis. I have obviously New England beating the Bills because it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. I mean, it could go either way, but it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. I like Seattle. Don't bet on it until further notice. Don't bet against it until further notice. And then I have Indianapolis over Denver, so I would have New England hosting Indianapolis in the championship game, which I'm actually going to take Indianapolis because I am super on the Indianapolis hype wagon. On the hype train, I should say, this year. The bandwagon, the hype train, whatever you want to call it. I'm on it for the Colts. They've loaded up offensively with Andre Johnson, with Chris Carter's son, who may not even make the team, may end up on the practice squad, but still, if he makes a team, he could be a big factor. Frank Gore. Defensively, they lost Arthur Jones, but the offense may be good enough where they can score more points than the defense allows, while the defense being okay. But I'm all on board for Indianapolis going to the Super Bowl to face the Seattle Seahawks.
Here's the crazy part. Me and you don't often agree, but I have Indianapolis going to the Super Bowl also.
Oh my goodness, this is weird. This is very weird. And you know what? I must say, for record-keeping purposes, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, listen to the podcast, the only thing I told Lewis last night was we are going to do an NFL preview. Do your homework, study up, rank the teams, and we'll go from there. I didn't say anything else. I swear, on knocking on wood on this computer desk I'm sitting at right now, we did not do this beforehand.
That's a true story.
So that's interesting. That's very interesting.
I actually have the Colts beating Patriots to go to the Super Bowl. And, yeah.
Who do you have in the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl between the Colts and the Seahawks?
Well, if it's the Colts and the Seahawks, I have Seahawks. But I believe it's going to be the Colts and the Cowboys, where I then choose the Cowboys.
I think I have Indianapolis over Seattle. Now, I think that Seattle is good enough to get back to the Super Bowl because, again, they're the best team in the NFC. Dallas being a close second, but obviously Seattle's done it 2 years in a row, almost won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Again, you're probably just a heads up, Pete Carroll. Russell Wilson, you should have ran the ball with Marshawn Lynch.
Yes.
I mean, because even if you had run the ball with Marshawn Lynch and you didn't, and you got stuffed, which you wouldn't have because Marshawn Lynch is a beast, but if you'd gotten stuffed, you at least put the ball in one of your best players' hands. You didn't throw the ball 1 yard, slant, picked off, game over. But I have the Colts, and again, I'm buying. Like I said, I'm all hype for the Colts. I'm on the train, driving the bandwagon, whatever it may be. I'm there. I think Seattle gets to the Super Bowl. I mean, they could win it. They could win the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't be surprised at all because they're that damn good. But I just think the Colts are good enough to get there and win the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't really have any other reason besides that. The offense is great. Defense will be okay. I think their offense will be better than Seattle's defense, which is crazy to say because Seattle's defense is phenomenal. But, I mean, great quarterbacks can beat great teams. And I think that Andrew Luck is ready to be moved up from the good quarterbacks to the great quarterbacks. I mean, he's been good since he got to the NFL, but I think he's ready to take that next step. And this season is where he'll take that big step.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. You make excellent points. I just don't feel that Andrew Luck is ready to take that next step as a big play quarterback. And I say that because in the championship game against the Patriots, he folded. They scored one touchdown.
Well, yeah, but Lewis, we saw why that happened though because Tom Brady cheated and deflated all the footballs.
All of them, every single one of them. You know, all of them. And to those who are listening, if you don't really know the whole story behind the whole Deflategate thing, you need to understand that it was caught at halftime. It was only like 3 footballs. They switched the footballs out at halftime, and then the Patriots came out and ran the score up with the regulation footballs. So, that being said, while I believe the Colts are going to beat New England to make it to the Super Bowl, which, by the way, if that happens, the Colts will be like, see, vindication, all the balls were deflated, which is fine. We already know that they raised the banner for second place, so we know they're bitter. But I just don't think they have the defensive talent to stop an offense like Dallas or Seattle. So if Seattle,
sorry to cut you off, Lewis. I just want to make sure that I get this thought out there while you mentioned the Cowboys. If it's Dallas and Indianapolis in the Super Bowl, I probably would be leaning towards Dallas, because we saw how good they were last year, and when they click on all cylinders, it's very difficult to beat the Dallas Cowboys. So I feel like if the Cowboys and Colts played in the Super Bowl, it would probably be like a 34-28 game. But if it was Seattle and Indianapolis, it probably would end up being like the Patriots in Seattle was, where it's like 21-20.
Right. Okay.
Or it's like instead of being a shootout, it'll be a chess match.
Yeah, I can see that. I still think Seattle would win, though. I don't see the Colts. I see the Colts being able to get there. I don't see the Colts being able to win. And the only reason I say that is because normally when you have a young quarterback that has not been to the big game before, they tend to kind of not live up to the hype because it's a completely different situation. The only person we didn't really see that with was Russell Wilson. And so he's been there. He knows what to expect. He's 1-1. I think they want to avenge last year. So if it's them against the Colts, I see them blowing the Colts out. But at the same token, I believe it would be a closer game with Dallas because Tony Romo, even though he's a seasoned quarterback, a veteran, he's also not been to the big game. So he might be a little starstruck, just like Andrew Luck would be. But I see Dallas having the better offense and the better defense and being able to win a game. I think it would be closer than a Seattle-Indianapolis Super Bowl. But I believe that they will still win by at least a touchdown.
Either way, any of those matchups, those two matchups, Indianapolis, Dallas, Indianapolis, Seattle would be good. I mean, even if you were to give us New England, Seattle, or New England, Dallas, that would be good too. I mean, it's a no-lose situation at this point in time. Plus, the other thing too, I didn't even think about this, but I would almost want to, at this point, put New England in the Super Bowl and have them win because if there's one thing you don't want to do in the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady era, piss off Tom Brady, piss off Bill Belichick, piss off the New England Patriots. Like, just don't do it.
Yeah. Not a good idea.
So if they win the Super Bowl this year, I wouldn't be surprised because you don't piss them off. You just don't. Don't give good people extra motivation. Like, motivate the bad people. Don't motivate the good people. Don't motivate the great quarterbacks, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Please don't do that. We don't need that.
He's going to have some motivation. But if they win it this year, how many will that be for them?
5.
Does that give the franchise 5?
That would give the franchise 5, I believe, yes. Because they went with Bledsoe and lost, and then they lost to the Bears in 85.
Yeah, I don't want them having 5 Super Bowls.
That's fair.
That would tie them with the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers.
But it would be crazy because the crazier part about it would be is if one group, one head coach quarterback tandem won 5 Super Bowls. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. That would be unprecedented, and it would be amazing. I just don't want to see it. I want, and I'll be completely honest with you. While I feel truly that the Dallas Cowboys have the talent to win a Super Bowl, I want them to win because it's really burning me that the Pittsburgh Steelers have 6 Super Bowl wins and the Cowboys only have 5, and we can't stand each other. So
that's good reason. That's great reasoning right there, Lewis. That's very unselfish. Good reasoning.
Well, it's the one thing. Like, my dad's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Okay, and so whenever we start talking football, I can make some really good points, but all he has to say is, 6 Super Bowls. I'm like, shut up, Dad.
Those are the people. You don't talk to him then. If that's his argument, don't talk to him.
Not talking to you, Dad.
Just walk away. Just slam something on the ground and just walk away. Storm away in anger.
Exactly.
Hey, so can I expect to see you on the 12th, Saturday?
Next Saturday?
Can you pencil me in?
Yeah.
We can do the podcast here at the Wolf Den. I'm not Family State.
I was expecting to come out there this week, to be honest with you, because I got to be in your area to officiate a wedding. So I was going to go out there earlier, but obviously we're doing it on Thursday instead.
Well, unfortunately, yeah, the weekend is busy.
No, you will see me next week.
12th. Okay, well we can do a full podcast then. I liked how we did it today with just the NFL straight through. I want to ask you before we go, what are your thoughts on the Fred Jackson saga with the Buffalo Bills?
Unfortunately, the NFL's a business.
Yep.
And you want to have the players around the team that are going to be the most beneficial. And I feel like Ryan wants to make a statement like, this is my team now. I make the rules. So if he felt that Fred Jackson wasn't going to be the best person for that particular position, I can understand him getting cut. But at the same token, even though I'm not a Bills fan, I understand that Fred Jackson was a very positive influence in that locker room. He was a leader. He was a pillar of the community. And I believe he has, you should have given a player like that the opportunity to finish his career with one team.
I understand the anger. And as you heard on BLTD Extracast 2 with myself and the host of Get Ready America, John Cimino, we discussed it during the week to make sure we get something out that was fresh. But there's been a lot of controversy this week on Buffalo media, in Buffalo media through the Buffalo radio airwaves, that Doug Whaley went rogue and did it himself, which is total garbage because Doug Whaley spoke to Terry Pagula, who reportedly stuck up for Fred Jackson last April and said, no, I want him on the team. Let's give him a shot, which they did. The Bills gave him a shot, but with LaShawn McCoy, Boobie Dixon, Bryce Brown, and Carlos Williams at running back, it's something where Fred Jackson won't play special teams because he's not he's 34 years old. He's a 34-year-old running back. Like, that's not his role. His role is not special teams. But Boobie Dixon is a special teams ace. He'll be wonderful on special teams and good as a depth running back. Carlos Williams will be a good 2 or 3. Bryce Brown will be a good 2. And LaShawn McCoy, no doubt about it, is the starter. Where does Fred Jackson fit in? He doesn't. You cut him now at this point to give him a shot to land with another franchise so he can get in, jump in head first, and potentially start the season off with a new team. Or you not only do that, but you free up cap space to potentially get Marcel Darius under contract because you free $2.55 million. And here's the other reason, too, why you may see Matt Castle get cut instead of E.J. Manuel. Because Castle, there's more cap space with Castle than there is with Manuel. Plus, obviously, they still see something in E.J. Manuel they want to keep around. But you clear up cap space to sign younger, more talented players. Because if you're trying to tell me right now that Fred Jackson means more to the Buffalo Bills than Marcel Darius means to the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to ask you what you're on and see if I can get some. Marcel Darius is the anchor of the defense, and they want to keep a guy like that around. I understand that. I get that Fred Jackson's a pillar of the community and in a great face of the franchise, and he's wonderful with everything he does. He's a great guy on and off the field. But like you said, Lewis, at the end of the day, the National Football League is a business. Not a great one, but a business nonetheless.
Now, didn't Fred fly out to Seattle?
He was in Seattle. Pete Carroll said some things about him. But there's been no deal consummated at this point. Now, as we mentioned on the BLTD Extracast, the Cowboys reportedly have some interest, but it would be after a few weeks of the season. The Patriots may have interest in Fred Jackson. So the market's kind of slow to develop. I wonder if teams are going to wait until they cut down to 53 to see who becomes available, if a better running back becomes available. But I would see why, Fred Jackson would fit in Seattle perfectly. He would go back with Marshawn Lynch under in the backfield. He's a great blocker. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield. So it'd be great to see him in that offense and see him catching swing passes or options or have your option plays out of the backfield or stuff like that. But I mean, he wouldn't play a ton, I don't think, but he would still be a very good player to have in Seattle. Same with New England. I don't think he would play a ton, but it would be a great player to have. I would think at this point his best option would probably be if the Cowboys, both the running backs flame out and he comes in as a starter. But then again, I mean, because their offensive line is beautiful. Like they can open up holes anywhere. But I think that would be his best fit for him. But if he wants to win a championship right now, it would probably be New England or Seattle.
Well, like we said, I mean, could you imagine him going to Seattle or Dallas and then winning a Super Bowl?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for him, that'd be awesome. Seeing as that he's never even sniffed the Super Bowl. But
I would. Well, he hasn't even really sniffed the playoffs because he's never been in the playoffs.
Yeah, right, exactly. So then maybe down the line, when he decides to retire, the Buffalo Bills can sign him like a one-day contract. Retire a Bill.
He'll retire a Buffalo Bill, and there's no doubt about it that one day his name and number will be up on the Wall of Fame at Ralph Wilson Stadium.
Yeah. So, but it'd almost be like sweet redemption for him if he signed with a team that won a Super Bowl. And the three teams on the docket have the potential to do that. You know, if either team, Seattle, Dallas, New England, like all three of those have the potential to get that ring. So it'd be crazy if something like that happened for him.
Well, we'll keep you posted on that. We'll keep you posted on everything else National Football League. Maybe there's a potential that Robert Griffin is a free agent or traded within the next couple days. Big names could be cut. Most likely will. We'll cover that next Saturday, the day before football starts. Obviously, we'll have the result from Thursday night's season opener, and we'll just have more sports news. I mean, it's been fun. It's been about an hour almost, judging by my clock I have here, but no commercials, no interruptions, just straight football talk from the Better Live Than Dead crew. I don't know about you, Lewis, but it's great to be back. I know the week off certainly was good. Recharged my batteries. It may happen a little more often if there's just a week where things aren't happening in sports, or if one of us is just feeling dull or busy, we may take a week off.
Right.
Because it feels good. I mean, we went strong for 57 straight episodes, so it's good to take a break and recharge the batteries, and don't force it if there's nothing happening.
Yeah, no, I agree, and you know, it'll be nice to sit down and actually be face to face and maybe take our time with one, because a lot has happened in sports, period, that we can talk, and I know that, you know, one of the things that I would like to sit down and talk with you. Maybe we could do it on a Get Ready America. You know, I would like to talk about the VMAs.
That would be awesome, because the VMAs were wonderful.
You know, and everything that happened at the VMAs this year, it was very, very interesting. And I know you have strong opinions about Kanye West that may not necessarily mirror my opinions, so that'd be a fun discussion. But
vote Kanye 2020, dog. Come on. We know it's not serious, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. With him, he may be serious.
He probably is. Like, we don't think he's serious, but then, you know, it may roll around where he's like, guys, I wasn't kidding. Like, I'm serious about it. Yeah. It wouldn't, either way, it wouldn't doubt me.
Right. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Is, he'll get people to vote for him. No political, you know, serious at all, but he'd get people to vote for him. And
people want to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, come on now.
Right. No, I agree. And I would really like to sit down with you guys and talk about that speech.
Well, you know, I'm not big into, I was going to say, if it's about politics, you know, I'm not big into politics, so I may wade in and out of that, but I will have no problem. We can sit down and talk about whatever you want to talk about, because it's been months.
Yeah, so it really has. It's weird.
Well, if I get this new job, which I'm crossing my fingers, if I get this new job, my schedule may change. So that's wonderful.
For the better?
For the better, I'm hoping. It may not change. I may have to, I believe with training, you have to work like crappy hours during the week to train. But then once you're done training, you can like pick a schedule or something. So.
Okay.
My weekday evenings may open up finally.
That'd be nice.
I'm hoping so.
All right, excellent. Awesome.
But I guess there's no time better than now to wrap this bad boy up. Say thank you to each and every single one of you for tuning in, for sticking around. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support as per usual.
We do.
Keep it tuned to BLTDsports.com. We've hired a couple more writers. We're just kicking the door down with that, and a lot of stuff up. I know today Brayton posted an article about talking about the Chicago Blackhawks, seeing if they can continue their dynasty in the National Hockey League. A new writer, Joe, he put up an article about fantasy football sleepers. I'm posting an article on Friday about Tim Murray having the best offseason ever, with a pretty sweet graphic that I made. And just more sports talk happening. and we're gonna go from there, and we're just gonna keep posting stuff. I mean, that's just how we do. We got to build the brand from the bottom up, and we also applied for credentials with the Sabres. Not sure we'll get them, but you can't say we didn't try. Damn it.
That's right. That's right.
I am Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD on Twitter.
I am Mr. Perez. You can find me at MRLG Perez on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, social medias. Hook me up. Lick me up.
Absolutely.
Follow me, peoples.
Give him a follow. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
We'll be back next week to talk more football. We're going to talk baseball, too, next week, because what we wanted to do on episode 58 last week, I wanted to kind of talk some September baseball, see what's going on. So we're going to let September baseball marinate a little more. The races get a little hotter, a little tighter. We're going to talk more baseball next week. Oh, it's going to be phenomenal down the stretch. We're going to talk National Football League. We may talk some college football as well. Hockey, maybe. We'll see what happens. But with that being said, we will be back next week. I promise you that. Hopefully, Lewis will be in studio and we can have some fun with that. I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. We got down in the basement, got a giant TV. It's a great place to podcast. But I guess with that being said, friends, family, listeners, we will see you sometime very soon.
Adios.